Hello friends, this is Dr. Anumit Sabharwal. You're watching my channel Doc Sab, and today I'm going to talk about conflict resolution at work. As a project manager, it's very difficult to navigate the corporate world. Sometimes you have clients making unreasonable requests. Sometimes your own colleagues may have infighting, and it becomes a very tedious task to kind of resolve all of these conflicts. So let's discuss how you can do it. Relax, take a step back, breathe, and then decide what to do next. Let's say you're in a meeting, a staff meeting, or in a meeting with a client, and you suspect that there's going to be some conflict, or there's a conflict that erupts. It's always best to first assess your first reaction. So take a step back, think, is your reaction as a consequence of you taking things too personally? Is your reaction appropriate? If yes, go ahead. If not, like I said, assess yourself and then go for the next step. Always resolve conflicts in a private setting. Never resolve conflicts in an open setting where the parties can be easily heard. It's always best, because nobody wants to be humiliated in public. It's always best to take both parties in the confines of a safe room where there is no unnecessary intrusion. Ensure an open channel of communication where all parties involved are allowed to have a say. It's very essential whenever you're resolving a conflict that every party has their own story to tell, so that all of them feel that they have been heard properly. Employ active listening. This is a technique that you should vigorously employ every time you're trying to resolve a conflict. Now, what is active listening and how is it different from passive listening? So passive listening is basically the kind of listening that you do when you're listening to a lecture. But in active listening, you're understanding, you're comprehending, you're remembering whatever is being talked about, and you're giving your inputs as you go along. This ensures that the parties understand that you're committed to resolving their conflict. Use the word I in your statements regarding the emotions and reactions within the conflict. This prevents from any of the conflicting parties from perceiving that you're being partial to any one of them, and also this way you're not blaming anyone directly. Lean on silence when in challenging conversations. Now, don't underestimate the power of an awkward silence during a conflict, because in that silence, in that period, the aggrieved parties are able to understand each other's perspectives, to reflect on them, and this can actually lead to a conflict resolution faster. Understand when it's too much. Sometimes, no matter what you do, you'll not be able to please your client. No matter what you do, you'll not be able to resolve conflict between your colleagues, and at that point, it's always wiser to call it a day and postpone it for a later date. Lastly, take a follow-up. This is one of the most important things that you can do, because there's a human tendency to demand and expect a kind of closure, a sense of closure to any scenario. So when you're doing a follow-up, it's always best to take opinions of both the parties, all the parties involved, and to take understand their expectations from you in the future as the person who's managing their conflict. और ज़्यादा जानकारी के लिए लाइक कीजिए, सब्सक्राइब कीजिए और कमेंट लिखिए डॉक्टर साहब चैनल के लिए।